First contact and tensions rise. The massive alien ship appeared without warning, materializing just beyond Earth's moon. Its sleek, obsidian surface absorbed light rather than reflecting it, creating an unsettling void against the starry backdrop. World leaders scrambled to respond, their carefully laid first contact protocols suddenly seeming woefully inadequate. Dr. Samira Patel, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, found herself thrust into the spotlight. As she boarded the hastily prepared shuttle to meet the alien delegation, her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Years of theoretical work were about to be put to the ultimate test. The alien vessel dwarfed the human shuttle, swallowing it within a cavernous docking bay. Samira led a small team of diplomats and scientists into an airlock, her breath catching as the inner doors slid open to reveal their hosts. The aliens, calling themselves the Zarki, stood nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in iridescent scales, and multiple arms sprouted from torsos that seemed unnaturally elongated to human eyes. But it was their faces that truly unnerved Samira. Entirely featureless save for 3 glowing orbs arranged in a triangle. "Welcome, humans," a voice resonated directly in Samira's mind, making her flinch. "We have long observed your species and deemed you worthy of evaluation." Over the next few days, Samira worked tirelessly to establish a dialogue with the Zarki. Their technology was centuries beyond humanity's, and their civilization spanned multiple galaxies. Yet something about their demeanor set Samira on edge. There was an air of condescension in every interaction, a sense that humans were being judged and found wanting. The Zarki leader, who called himself Ngzithal, requested a meeting with Earth's most prominent leaders. In a globally broadcast event, Ngzithal addressed humanity. "Your species shows potential." Ngzithal's mental voice reverberated across the airwaves. "But you are fragmented, primitive. We offer you a choice. Submit to Zarki guidance, and we will elevate you. Resist and face extinction." The world erupted in chaos. Some nations immediately capitulated, while others vowed defiance. Samira found herself caught in the middle, desperately trying to negotiate a peaceful resolution. But as tensions escalated, a chilling realization dawned on her. The Zarki weren't interested in cooperation. This was merely a pretense. They sought domination, and humanity's response was little more than amusement to them. In a private meeting with Earth's Defense Council, Samira voiced her concerns. "They're toying with us," she warned. "Every concession we make, they push for more. They want us divided and weakened before they strike." General Helena Reyes, a battle-hardened veteran, nodded grimly. "I've seen this before, just never on this scale. They're following the classic playbook of a conquering force." As if to confirm their worst fears, reports began flooding in of Zarki ships appearing over major cities worldwide. The alien craft hung silent and menacing, a clear show of force. Ngzithal's voice once again filled the airwaves. "Your time to choose has ended. Those who submitted will be spared. The rest will learn the price of defiance." Samira felt a chill run down her spine. She had failed in her mission for peace, but perhaps her knowledge of the Zarki could still prove vital. As the first explosions lit up the sky, she knew humanity faced its greatest test. The war for Earth's survival had begun. The alien invasion begins. The Zarki attack was swift and merciless. Energy beams lanced down from their ships, vaporizing entire city blocks in seconds. Human military forces scrambled to respond, but their most advanced weapons barely scratched the alien vessel's shields. In Washington, D.C., General Reyes barked orders from a fortified bunker. "Get those civilians to the shelters. I want every bird we got in the air 5 minutes ago." Reports flooded in from around the globe. Paris was in flames. Tokyo had gone dark. The Golden Gate Bridge had been sliced in two by a casual swipe from a Zarki beam. Dr. Samira Patel huddled with a team of scientists and military strategists, desperately analyzing data from the attacks. "There's a pattern to their strikes," she muttered, eyes fixed on a holographic display. They're not just destroying infrastructure, they're targeting our ability to communicate and coordinate. A young lieutenant spoke up, his voice tight with stress. "Ma'am, we're getting reports of something else. The Zarki aren't just bombing us. There are ground troops." Footage began streaming in from around the world. Zarki soldiers moved with inhuman speed and grace, their scaled bodies seemingly impervious to small arms fire. They carried weapons that fired streams of writhing energy, melting through armor and flesh alike. "My God," someone whispered. "How can we fight that?" Samira's mind raced. During her brief time on the Zarki ship, she had gleaned fragments of information about their biology and technology. "Their scales," she said suddenly. "They're not just armor. They're sensory organs, incredibly sensitive to vibration and electromagnetic fields." General Rice leaned forward. "Are you saying we might have a weakness to exploit?" Samira nodded cautiously. "Possibly, but we need more data, and we need a way to strike back at their ships. As long as they control the skies, we're just fighting a losing battle." As if in response to her words, alarms blared throughout the bunker. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Incoming. Multiple bogies on approach." The bunker shook as explosions rocked the surface. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and for a terrifying moment, Samira thought the structure might collapse. But the reinforced walls held. In the aftermath, as they took stock of the damage, a glimmer of hope emerged. A squad of Marines had managed to down a Zarki fighter using an experimental EMP weapon. The alien craft lay mostly intact just outside the city. "This is it," General Rice declared. "Our chance to turn the tide. Dr. Patel, I'm sending you with a team to examine that ship. Find us a way to hurt these bastards." Samira swallowed hard but nodded. As she geared up for the dangerous mission, reports continued to pour in from around the world. Pockets of fierce resistance had sprung up, with humans using guerrilla tactics to ambush Zarki patrols. In some places, civilians armed with little more than improvised weapons had managed to overwhelm isolated alien units. But these small victories came at a terrible cost. Entire regions had gone silent, presumed overrun or destroyed. The Zarki advance seemed unstoppable. As Samira boarded a transport with a team of Special Forces operators and engineers, she felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. If they couldn't find a way to neutralize the Zarki's technological advantage soon, there might not be much of a world left to save. The transport raced through war-torn streets, dodging debris and the occasional energy blast from above. Samira clutched her tablet, reviewing everything she knew about Zarki tech. Their own arrogance might be their undoing. They had shown off their advanced systems, confident that humans could never comprehend them. But Samira had always been a quick study, and now, faced with extinction, her mind was working in overdrive. As they approached the downed fighter, she felt a spark of an idea forming. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it just might give humanity a fighting chance. "Let's move, people," the squad leader shouted as they disembarked. "We've got incoming hostiles. Dr. Patel, you've got 10 minutes to find us something useful." Samira nodded grimly and approached the alien craft. Time to see if humans really were as resourceful as they believed themselves to be. Humanity's clever counterattack. Samira's hands flew over the alien control panel, her mind racing to decipher the complex symbols. The downed Zarki fighter hummed with residual energy, its systems still partially active. Around her, the Special Forces team maintained a defensive perimeter, trading fire with approaching alien troops. "How much longer, Doc?" shouted Captain Miguel Rodriguez, his rifle barking as he dropped another Zarki soldier. "Almost there," Samira muttered, sweat beading on her brow. The ship's database was a treasure trove of information, if only she could access it fully. Suddenly, the console beneath her fingers pulsed with light. Samira's eyes widened as streams of data flooded her neural implant, the rushed installation before the mission now proving its worth. She staggered under the influx of information, gasping as the pieces fell into place. "I've got it," she cried. "Captain, we need to get this data back to command immediately." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Easier said than done, Doc. Our exfil route is hot." As if to emphasize his point, a Zarki energy blast sizzled overhead, melting a nearby car into slag. But Samira's mind was already racing ahead, formulating a plan. "The fighter's communication array," she said, pointing to a dish-like structure on the craft's hull. "If I can reconfigure it, we might be able to broadcast the data directly to our forces." The captain hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Do it. We'll buy you time." Samira set to work, her fingers dancing over the alien tech with newfound confidence. The sounds of battle faded into the background as she lost herself in the intricate dance of code and energy manipulation. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, Samira stepped back, a fierce grin on her face. "It's done. Transmitting now." The dish hummed to life, pulsing with an eerie blue light. Across the battlefield, human communications devices crackled with sudden activity. In bunkers and command centers around the world, strategists and scientists found themselves flooded with a wealth of Zarki technical data. But the alien forces weren't about to let this theft go unchallenged. As if sensing the shift in the battle's tide, they redoubled their assault on Samira's position. "Time to go, Doc," Rodriguez shouted, laying down covering fire as the team began to fall back. They fought their way through war-torn streets, the data transmission painting a target on their backs. Zarki troops seemed to materialize from every shadow, their inhuman shrieks filling the air. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, salvation arrived from an unexpected quarter. A group of civilians, armed with makeshift weapons and burning determination, launched an ambush on the alien forces. "Run!" an older woman shouted, hurling a Molotov cocktail at a Zarki squad. "We'll hold them off." Samira wanted to protest, to save these brave souls, but Rodriguez pulled her along. "They're giving us a chance," he said grimly. "Don't waste it." As they raced toward the extraction point, Samira's mind whirled with the implications of what she'd discovered. The Zarki weren't invincible. Far from it. Their technology, for all its advancement, had critical vulnerabilities, weaknesses that humanity, with its talent for improvisation and unconventional thinking, was uniquely suited to exploit. Back at command, General Rice pored over the flood of new intelligence. A slow smile spread across her face as she turned to her staff. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "we have a fighting chance. Initiate Operation Slingshot." Across the globe, human forces began to adapt with astounding speed. Hackers launched cyberattacks on Zarki networks, sowing confusion in their ranks. Engineers jury-rigged EMP devices, turning the aliens' sensitive scales against them. Pilots took to the skies and retrofitted aircraft, now capable of penetrating Zarki shields. The tide of battle slowly began to turn. Humanity, backed into a corner, was revealing a ferocity and ingenuity that the Zarki had gravely underestimated. In the skies above New York, a squadron of human fighters engaged a Zarki capital ship. Using the stolen data, they targeted specific weak points, their weapons punching through previously impenetrable defenses. The massive alien vessel listed, trailing fire and debris as it crashed into the Atlantic. Similar scenes played out across the planet. The Zarki, so confident in their superiority, found themselves increasingly outmaneuvered by human tactics. Their rigid military doctrine proved ill-suited to counter the guerrilla warfare and constantly evolving strategies of their human opponents. Samira, now working directly with General Reyes, felt a surge of pride as reports of victories began to outnumber defeats. Humanity was bloodied but unbowed, and the Zarki were facing a level of resistance they had never anticipated. But the war was far from over. As news of human successes spread, the Zarki High Command prepared to unleash their most devastating weapons. The battle for Earth was about to enter its most crucial and destructive phase. The tide turns. The Zarki reeled from humanity's unexpected counterattack, their carefully laid plans for conquest thrown into disarray. Nexthal, the alien commander, raged within his flagship, his mental broadcasts filled with fury and disbelief. "Impossible," he thundered to his subordinates. "These primitives cannot stand against us. Unleash the world breakers." Across Earth, massive Zarki ships began to descend from orbit. Unlike the sleek fighters and destroyers, these were monstrous constructs of pulsing energy and twisting metal. As they entered the atmosphere, the very air seemed to warp around them. In the hardened bunker serving as humanity's primary command center, alarms blared. General Rice stared at the tactical displays with growing horror. What in God's name are those things? Dr. Samira Patel, now a key advisor in Earth's defense, pored over the incoming data. "There's some kind of terraforming devices," she said, her voice tight with tension. "If they activate, they could remake our entire biosphere, render the planet uninhabitable for us, but perfect for Zarki physiology." A grim silence fell over the command center. After coming so far, after clawing back victory from the jaws of defeat, was this to be humanity's end? But Samira wasn't finished. Her eyes lit up with a dangerous gleam. The world breakers are incredibly complex machines. To function, they need to interface directly with the planet's geomagnetic field. General Rice leaned forward. "I sense a but coming, Doctor." Samira nodded. "But that connection goes both ways. If we can hijack that link, use Earth itself as a conduit, we could turn their own weapons against them." Rice finished, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "What do you need?" What followed was the most ambitious and desperate plan in human history. As Zarki world breakers descended on every continent, humanity marshaled its remaining resources for one final gambit. In secret bases and hastily converted facilities around the globe, scientists and engineers worked feverishly to construct massive electromagnetic pulse generators. These weren't like the small-scale EMP weapons used earlier in the war. These were city-sized installations designed to channel the Earth's own magnetic field into a weapon of unprecedented power. The plan was fraught with danger. A miscalculation could devastate Earth's ecosystems as surely as the Zarki terraformers. And there would only be one chance to get it right. As the world breakers began their ominous descent, humanity held its collective breath. In commando centers around the world, technicians hovered over control panels, waiting for the signal. Samira stood beside General Rice, both women tense with anticipation. "They're entering the lower atmosphere," Samira reported, watching the readings from a bank of monitors. "Commencing interface with the geomagnetic field. Now." Rice nodded grimly. "All stations, this is Crystal Palace. Operation Gaia is go. I say again, Gaia is go." Across the planet, the EMP generators roared to life. The ground itself seemed to tremble as unimaginable amounts of electromagnetic energy were channeled and focused. For a moment, it seemed as if nothing was happening. Then, with a silent flash that lit up skies around the world, the trap was sprung. The world breakers, still in the process of interfacing with Earth's magnetic field, were caught in a feedback loop of cataclysmic proportions. Samira watched in awe as the massive alien ships began to warp and twist. "It's working," she breathed. "The electromagnetic surge is causing their own fields to collapse." One by one, the world breakers began to fall. Final showdown and aftermath. The sight of Zarki world breakers plummeting from the sky ignited a renewed sense of hope across the globe. Cheers erupted from battered cities and makeshift refugee camps alike as humanity witnessed its most decisive victory yet. But the war was far from over. Nexthal, the Zarki's supreme commander, had survived aboard his heavily shielded flagship. Enraged by the destruction of the world breakers and the unexpected resilience of humanity, he prepared for a final, devastating assault. These humans have proven more troublesome than anticipated. Anxithal's mental voice boomed to his remaining forces. We will wipe them from existence and start anew with this world. In Earth's command center, the brief celebration was cut short as new alarms blared. General Rise turned to Samira, her expression grim. What are we looking at, Doctor? Samira's fingers flew over holographic displays, her eyes widening in horror. They're consolidating their remaining ships into a single massive fleet. Energy readings are off the charts. I think they're preparing for an all-out bombardment of the planet's surface. Rise nodded grimly. So it's do or die time. What options do we have left? For a moment, the bunker fell silent save for the hum of equipment and the distant rumble of ongoing battles. Then Samira's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with a dangerous idea. The Zarki flagship, she said. It's not just a vessel. It's the nexus of their entire command and control network. If we can get aboard and access their central systems, we could shut down their whole operation. Rise finished. But how the hell do we get on that ship? A voice spoke up from the back of the room. I might have a way. All heads turned to see Captain Rodriguez, still battered from his earlier mission but standing tall. We captured a mostly intact Zarki shuttle during our last skirmish. With Dr. Patel's knowledge of their systems, we might be able to use it to slip past their defenses. Rais considered for only a moment before nodding sharply. It's a long shot, but it's the best we got. Assemble a strike team. You leave in 30 minutes. What followed was a frantic rush of preparation. Samira worked to program the captured shuttle systems, while Rodriguez briefed a hand-picked team of Special Forces operators. The fate of humanity would rest on this small group's shoulders. As they prepared to board the alien craft, Rise approached Samira. You don't have to go, she said softly. You've already done more than anyone could ask. Samira shook her head, a determined set to her jaw. I'm the only one who can interface directly with their systems. I have to see this through. The retrofitted Zarki shuttle lifted off, cloaked in a hasty camouflage of scavenged alien tech. As they ascended through war-torn skies, the true scale of the looming Zarki armada became apparent. Thousands of ships hung in low orbit, their weapons primed for a final, apocalyptic strike. My God, someone whispered. How can we possibly stop all of that? We don't have to, Samira replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. We just have to stop him. Their approach to Anxithal's flagship was tense, every moment expecting to be discovered and vaporized. But Samira's programming held, and they slipped into a secondary hangar bay undetected. The team moved swiftly through alien corridors, guided by Samira's understanding of Zarki ship layouts. They encountered scattered resistance, but the element of surprise was on their side. Finally, they reached the central command node. As Rodriguez and his team secured the perimeter, Samira interfaced directly with the alien systems. The rush of information was overwhelming. But she pushed through, searching for the key to bring down the Zarki war machine. Suddenly, a mental presence slammed into her consciousness. Anxithal himself, aware of the intrusion and fighting back. Insignificant creature, his thoughts boomed in her mind. Did you truly believe you could challenge us? We are eternal. We are power incarnate. Samira gritted her teeth, pushing back against the alien will. In that mental battleground, she saw the truth of the Zarki. Not gods or demons, but beings driven by fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of a younger race that might one day surpass them. You're wrong. Samira projected back, her own thoughts bolstered by the indomitable human spirit that had carried her species through this war. We may be younger, we may be flawed, but we are not alone. Every human on Earth stands with me now. And in that moment, it felt true. The collective will of humanity seemed to flow through Samira, billions of minds united in the fight for survival. With a final, monumental effort, she broke through Anxithal's defenses. Alarms blared throughout the flagship as systems began to crash. The mental link with Anxithal shattered, leaving Samira gasping but triumphant. "It's done," she managed to croak out. "Their entire network is crashing. We need to get out of here now." The team fought their way back to the shuttle, the flagship crumbling around them. As they escaped, they watched in awe as the massive Zarki Armada fell into disarray. Without central coordination, the alien ships collided with each other or fell into decaying orbits. The journey back to Earth was tense, their small craft buffeted by debris from the disintegrating Zarki fleet. But as they broke through the atmosphere, a chorus of cheers erupted over their comms. The war, against all odds, was over. Humanity had survived. In the months and years that followed, Earth began the long process of rebuilding. The victory had come at a terrible cost. Entire cities lay in ruins, millions had perished. But the human spirit, so recently tested by fire, proved resilient. The Zarki threat was not entirely eliminated. Scattered remnants of their forces remained, some continuing to fight, others seeking asylum. Humanity faced hard questions about how to move forward, how to rebuild, and how to take its place among the stars. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never again underestimate the tenacity, creativity, and sheer determination of the human race. Against impossible odds, facing an enemy of overwhelming technological superiority, humanity had not only survived but triumphed. As she stood on a hilltop overlooking a city under reconstruction, Samira felt a profound sense of hope. The stars above no longer seemed like distant, unreachable points of light. They were a challenge, an invitation to a species that had proven its worth in the crucible of war. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. Whatever the future held, Earth would face it united, unbowed, and unafraid.